So I'd like to welcome Hannah Houston uh, to this interview here on Corpus Christi Watershed. She works with Simply Liturgical, and I believe we met a couple of years ago at the Sacred Music Colloquium in Los Angeles.
Yes.
What years were you there?
I was just there in 23.
23. Yeah, no, I remember you well from 23. So it's great to meet up with you again. Why don't you tell us again who you are and what your connections are, and then I'm going to grill you with a whole lot of questions. So
Sounds good. Well,
gonna,
thank you for.
we're going to get the spotlight on you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for having me. So yeah, I'm Hannah Houston. I work with Simply Liturgical. We're an online music publishing company, and I work as their digital librarian and their technical assistant and kind of anywhere in between. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm a sacred music lover. Like you said, we met out in California, but I think also were you at the Kansas City NPM
Yes, I
in
was. Yeah.
24? Yeah, I remember seeing you there, and
Okay.
I
All right.
haven't
This is
seen
why
you
you're very familiar. Very good.
since. Yeah, so I kind of hover around all the sacred music spots.
Oh, that's great. No, I remember Simply Liturgical being at NPM.
Yeah.
So that's reminds me there too. So, by the way, this background, I'm coming to you from the Cathedral of the Holy Cross in Boston. So this is a real background, not virtual. In case anyone's curious, but that's a whole other thing. But I think one of the things, I first heard about Simply Liturgical from some friends, and they were looking for weekday responsorial psalms, and they kept saying, there's just it was just very useful, certain things, and I know there's a lot more to it than that, and we can get into some of that too. But before we do, I just wanted to also ask you, where are you from, and what got you into sacred music? What got you into wanting to sing? Just um, think people get drawn in for different reasons and different pathways and experiences. Can you tell us a little
Yeah, for
more
sure.
about
So I live in Kentucky. I've grown up in Kentucky all my life
it?
and still live here. So my family started actually attending the Tridentine Mass when I was young, and they had a children's choir, and you had to have your first communion to be in the children's choir. And I was dying to be in the children's choir, but I was only 4.
Wow.
And she said, "No, you have to wait." So I I think it started then when I was told no because it created my want even more. So I had to wait, and when I did receive my first communion, I was able to join, and I loved it. And I couldn't read music forever, but I kind of learned by ear for a while, and then sort of caught on and was able to read by. And so that developed, and I always loved music. I always had music just kind of playing in my head. As a kid growing up, which I thought was normal. And then I said to somebody, "Don't you always have music in your head?" And they said, "No." And I said, "Oh, I didn't, I thought everyone had that." So, um, I, I always loved to sing. And I played the piano, I played violin, but singing was also always just my thing. So I'm not one of those kids like that has been doing this since 4. I didn't have a teacher for my voice till I was about 17. But then once I got her, my love for music just kind of you know, grew in leaps and bounds. And I decided to go to school for music. And I was able to study under the teacher I had at the time because she was a university professor. So I decided to go for school for music. And I got my degree in theory and composition, but my instrument was voice. So it kind of worked like 2 degrees. I kind of got a vocal, performance degree and a composition degree. So that's um, that's my journey of music. And I've just sort of dabbled here and there and everywhere.
Well, that's an amazing journey, and I appreciate that. So we're in a public space, so you're hearing sirens, you're hearing people screaming, and
No,
it's all
actually, I
very
don't.
interesting.
So you're
This
good.
is all this is all part of the church, and I love your story about that desire that grew in you, and you wanted it more, but you followed through it, and you clearly that calling and that desire was within your heart,
Yeah.
um, and that certainly plays into what you're doing now, and you've had different experiences with the extraordinary form and the ordinary form.
Mhm.
And I think, and tell me about Simply Liturgical in terms of, some of what you've discussed. You talked about fidelity to theology, of course, and to the liturgy, and that's, sort of a bare minimal requirement for what we look for, but not to be taken for granted. Um, Talk to us a little bit about that and some resources. Like I said, I learned about it through someone looking for weekday responsorial psalms, which are sometimes sometimes a little more difficult to come by
Yeah.
in terms of published works.
Right.
How do these things come about? I see that, there are various composers, a lot of different styles. Can things be, I have all kinds of questions about how this
Yeah.
works. So,
Yeah. So
which is fascinating because I find it fascinating.
yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of unique because it's all digital and people go like, oh, how do you do a music publishing company all digital? And the cool thing is we're not like stuck in a book. We're always updating and stuff like that. But we, right, like you said, the bare minimum is liturgical fidelity and being theologically sound. But unfortunately, a lot of times that's not even met. So we kind of saw this need within the church, and we went with that. So I would say it grew because one of our founders he wanted to publish one of his pieces that he wrote, and he realized that with a lot of the big companies, you kind of just have to sell away your right to your own piece of music, and then they take it and run with it, and you barely get compensated for it. So he was like, "This doesn't seem fair. Like, why don't I just throw up a website and put my music on there, and that'll be easy?" So that idea of throwing up a website became a whole business for him. And so basically, what happens is publisher or composers who, it's very hard to get into these major publishing companies, but they have really, beautiful music. They're very talented people. They submit their work through us, and it's vetted and, approved and go through reviews, and it's approved by the USCCB for the text and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And once it's approved through us, they can publish it, but they retain the right to their own music. And we offer just compensation for their work, so they receive a lot of compensation. And so it's all the composers that you wouldn't necessarily be able to have. But obviously, the church, it's always had new composers. It's always had people who are contributing to it. So to be stuck, with the same people every year isn't really growing, isn't really fulfilling what the church needs. So we get those composers who maybe are unheard of, but are very talented. And like you said, we do a lot. We have all the Psalms, all the daily Psalms, all the Sunday Psalms set to music.
That's very useful. Yeah.
Yes, and so that's kind of our big claim to fame. But we also have lots of mass settings and hymns and just like instrumental sacred music. And we also, I mean, we have like every genre you could want, every level you could want. We have lead sheets to orchestral pieces, everything. But again, because we're not strictly like a hymnal, we can have, we have a guitar setting of Immaculate Mary, which wouldn't be in a hymnal, when we also have the things that you would have in a hymnal. So it offers a wide variety, you know.
Right. And you probably have some options. So you can have a more, for lack of a better term, traditional sound, or one that may fit different ensembles, which
Right,
which
exactly.
is very much the reality of the church, but all theologically appropriate and reverent and
Mhm.
respectful and all that. I did notice for the composers, they retain the copyright, which means they can do other things with it if they
Yeah.
wish. And uh, the royalty is a little bit higher than what I'm
Yeah.
getting at some other places.
No, and
So
that's
I
like we
understand.
said,
Yeah.
that's
No,
part of
that's
the church is justly paying what's due, and we felt like that wasn't being met. So
yeah. And this is online. So tell us the URL, the website. It's very simple. It's easy to
it's
remember.
it's slmusic.com or .org.
Is it, yeah, slmusic.org?
Music.org. Yep.
But I just found
ORG.
you just Google simply liturgical and it comes right up.
Yeah.
So it's
Mhm.
really easy to find. Um, and I noticed there's I think online workshops. You've got some catechesis, I believe, and
Yeah, we
video.
offer, I mean, a bunch of different stuff. And in the new year, we're going to offer a planner. So we
Yeah.
have some new things coming in the new year. So we'll have like a planner to help organize, music and all the different things. So we're always updating. There's a lot on there.
Yeah. Is this again, is this like a membership thing, a one-time thing, or a combination?
So,
Just say you have a need for something. I need something for this and I can't find,
right.
or I want a
So
certain style and I can check out some options.
it's kind of two ways. So we have like an a la carte option where you just find the piece you want, oh, I need a song for tomorrow. It's there, you buy it and you own it, you keep it, you print it, do what you want. So that's one option. So just buying pieces as you find them. Another option is a subscription, and then you have access to everything on the site, and then you just print and copy as much as you need. So that's kind of the two ways. We're working on it's called a diocesan subscription, where the diocese would buy a subscription and it provides access to all the parishes. So that's kind of a new anything we have.
So those are pretty generous terms. In terms of a digital, you get a PDF, you've got three in your choir, or you got 50 in your choir.
Right.
And it's pretty much the same thing. The bigger your choir, the better the deal, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But but at the same time, you can continue to use it. Once you own it, you own it. Don't know if there's stipulations with
No, no,
dissemination beyond that.
once you
So
buy it, you print it as much as you want. Yep.
yeah, and although you don't want to repost it somewhere else because that composer still you still want to respect the composer and they have the copyright on there. Yeah, so I saw the planners are really helpful.
Mhm.
And you like to look at different places for planning. I usually consult. I sometimes consult with different websites on
Yeah.
that. It's nice to have another one. So it's called the Simply Liturgical Academy. Is that what it's referred to?
Yeah. So that's
That's what I
not,
was asking about also.
yeah. Okay. I see. So
When,
that's not,
sorry, when I was talking about a
you're good.
workshop or an online
I was like, well, we
catechesis.
have done those, but yes, the academy is, that'll be, so when you apply to be a composer, you have to, meet requirements and you're viewed and everything. So for people who maybe like can't be a composer yet, or they don't know how to compose, but they want to get into it or stuff or
Mhm.
like that, there'll be classes and workshops teaching you, the basics of composing, what it means to compose in a sacred way, how to use text stress and all the different things. So that is one of the features that we're adding. Will be
Mhm.
basically
Okay.
lessons and, how to
That's
do all these different
fascinating.
things. Yeah,
I don't know of
because so
anybody
many
else who's
people want to
doing
do it. There's just things, and one of the biggest things that I've met, like encountered as a music editor, is text stress.
that. Mhm.
People can create beautiful hymns, but text stress is really hard, and so that'll be like one of the things that we teach them, like how to learn where certain things go on beats and different things like that.
That's key.
Mhm.
I have left text writing to other dear friends
Yeah,
because I've discovered, yeah, it's really hard. But
it
that's a
is.
really helpful thing in how to direct the text, um, and generally directing it toward God, which is a
Right.
simple, straight up sort of no brainer thing. But that's actually harder to do than
Yeah,
one might imagine.
yeah. It kind of makes or breaks the piece.
Yeah, well,
Even if the hymn's beautiful, it's like it's not.
very, very, very true. Very true.
Right.
So with all that you've done, how do you feel in terms of, you've come to this is something that's serving the church. Um, it's fulfilling a need where in some cases the needs, there's tons of resources out there, but this may be filling some gaps in some places. How is your background, your passion about what you're doing, feeling about how this is serving the church and between what your own work and the work of Simply Liturgical.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So I think to me, so how I found Simply Liturgical is kind of a funny story. So I was volunteering for a different sacred music job that I had found on LinkedIn actually,
Mm,
which as I began working on it, I very quickly became obvious that this wasn't really going anywhere. It wasn't really a thing. But through that, I met TJ, who's one of the owners. He was also on this, and we kind of had a side conversation. I was like, I think I'm not gonna, work on this anymore. It's not really going anywhere. And he said, Yeah, I kind of came to the same conclusion. Could I tell you about another company I work for? And I said, Well, okay, sure. So I met with him and the other owner, and told me about it. And one of the biggest things that stood out to me was like a lot of the times there's a kind of a monopoly on sacred music. And to me, that felt very wrong. And I was like, anybody who has a beautiful piece should be able to praise God for it. And that was a passion that I had, especially since I was going to school for composition. I was like, being able to publish your work that you've put your heart and soul into was very important to me, and it's very hard to do. And so when I met them and they explained this to me, it kind of just took me back. And I was like, you're offering what kind of in my music mind, I was like, should be out there and it's not really known. So I was like, yes, I will. So they asked me to be their intern and I said, yes, I will be your intern. And then, um, we've really grown a lot since then. And when I graduated, they offered me a job. So I took it because I mean, it was not only in my field, but it was in my passion. And I think we're providing people a supplement that's authentic that I think when they find it, they're so grateful. And I just love the opportunity. And I can't tell you how many people I meet at conferences and things. They're like, why haven't I heard about you? I've basically been looking for you my whole, music career. And I was like, yeah, it's just a blessing to be able to work for somebody actually making good happen and, for the church. It's just a blessing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really fantastic. Certainly there's a need being filled in multiple directions. One on the creative end, um, and on the other, those looking for different resources. Because you mentioned there's a lot of different styles. I want to ask you about languages.
Yeah.
Aside from perhaps Latin or English, are there other languages, anything in Spanish or
We do
English?
have Spanish. We're working on actually the Spanish lectionary. So like having all the
Oh,
Psalms also in Spanish.
oh, wow.
I believe we're working on Vietnamese as well. And the idea is to keep growing that list as big as we can. It's a slow process, but Spanish is, we're working on that very heavily right now, and Vietnamese is in the background slowly coming forward. So,
Yeah, we have a big Vietnamese community here in Boston,
yeah.
and we have a couple of different choirs that occasionally I interact with and work with, and they come and sing here from time to time. And that the multiple languages is fantastic. And I know, and I think obviously this is something that can keep growing. Remind me. So you mentioned a composer who came up with the idea. Who founded this?
So it's
Whose
Kelly.
brainchild is
It's
this? Which is
it's Kelly Barth, and
yeah.
he lives in Nebraska, and he's just a musician and composer, and he's a school teacher, and he writes beautiful music, and he didn't want to sell away the rights to it. So that's he thought it would be real simple to slap up a website,
Mm,
and it was, and so it's just been growing. So he's the founder, but the cool thing about it is it's kind of like a boot. We did like a boots on the ground approach. Like everyone who is now owner of it. So there's three owners. It's Kelly who
mm,
founded it, and
mm.
then Emily. She was like one of their first customers. She bought one of the first parish subscriptions, and she got involved, and now she's one of the owners. And TJ, who I met working that other sacred music job, he was one of their first composers that they found, who started publishing through them, and now he's one of the owners. So it's like it's built by the people who use it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
um
Well,
yeah.
that's another testament. And how long has this been going? Because I heard about it a few years ago.
Yeah, it's Kelly started about 10 years ago, but over the last 3 or 4 years, it's really become something bigger. It was very small for a while, and then it kind of
Mm.
bloomed about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I recall you guys had a good presence, very strong presence at NPM.
Yes, that was
Several
our first
years.
showcase.
Yeah,
So, and
it was much appreciated, and I already heard of you guys and stopped by. Um, are there ways that someone can check out samples of this, whether they have a subscription or don't have a subscription
samples meaning just
of the
what we have.
composition?
So if you just go to the website, you can go to our music catalog, and
Yeah,
everything's on there. It'll just have, the sample mark on it.
great.
But we have all these filters, and you can filter through what you want, down to the specific
I
day.
need a psalm for Tuesday of the 31st Sunday, 31st week in ordinary time, year
Click those
one.
buttons, and it'll
Yeah,
populate for you. And the cool thing about it too is this happened a lot earlier in the beginning days when we didn't have as much music. We have a lot of stuff now, but if you you can email a composer, or email us, and we can contact the composer and say, hey, I need this. Is anybody willing to write this? And someone's always willing.
that was
There's
another
always someone willing to write something.
that was another question I had. Was
Yeah,
sort of like, can do folks write on commission?
they do.
Not so much in the traditional sense, but by request, and then of
Yes.
course you would buy their music. Uh,
Yeah, and
that's
that's
really
something.
cool.
It
Okay,
is really cool.
you
And
cannot do that. You can't call up. I'm going to call up a company in Portland, Oregon, or Chicago, and ask them, "Hey, I need this, and
right, so
I
it's
need it in a
unique.
week.
I needed it in 4 days. Yeah.
I need it
But
yesterday."
yeah, I mean, musicians and composers just dying for opportunities. So there has never been anyone who, there's always someone who wants to compose. So
You know,
the music will be written. Yeah.
that's another interesting
Mhm.
uh, hole in the market, shall we say?
Yeah.
Very, very useful. That's fabulous. You've given us a lot of great info. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the company, or any other things that I've missed or that I haven't? Any other great things we need to know about? What else do we need to know?
I think, I mean, I think we covered a lot of it. I think it's good to know that, everything's, vetted and approved by the church. So you don't have to worry about, finding things. Again, you can just print anything you want once if you have a subscription. The subscription is, you know, not that expensive in comparison to, church music. So
Mm.
that's really good. And we're always growing. So once you have a subscription, it's just the plethora keeps growing. And like I said, we're adding the planner, we're adding academy. So the sooner you get on board, the more, we're going to be adding and you'll get. Yeah. And if you want to be a composer, you can apply to be a composer. Um, there's a button that you click and you apply and fill out the information. So that's another great benefit.
Yeah, the
Um,
website's pretty easy to navigate, the
yeah, it's
website.
very user friendly. And we're having updates that are coming in at the end of the year that'll make it even easier. So, yeah, it's supposed to be user friendly. The point is not to have
Yeah.
music's hard enough to learn, it's
Mhm.
just these websites should be easy to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's created by musicians
Yeah.
for musicians,
Yes,
um,
exactly.
which may sound obvious, but sometimes isn't always obvious. Sounds like there's a lot of plans for the future and it's growing.
Yeah.
We certainly wish it very, very well, and I'm glad to learn more about it. With you on your personal, your own personal passion. You mentioned growing up in the traditional Latin Mass, and of course, obviously, you've been involved with the Novus Ordo and back and forth. What are your passions now with singing? Obviously, still singing quite a bit, or what else are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm still singing. I'm involved a lot with the opera program at the local school. They let me come and sing with them, so I do that a lot. And there's opportunities for music and just the arts in general up in Cincinnati, which is not too far from where I am. So I like to get involved with that, and I still compose. And yeah, music is very much part of my everyday. Besides just my job, it's my hobby, my activity in leisure time. So, but of course, I sing at my church, and yeah, music music's kind of a 24/7 for me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
God just sucks you in and finds
he
a way.
does. Yeah,
Even your path is interesting that you chased it when you started. You talk about being 4 years old and
yeah,
having to wait. Some people, a lot of people have a different circuitous route, and in my case, music was circuitous, and um, planned to do different things, and God found a way to suck me into this place. I never thought I'd be here.
right.
In your case, now you're doing opera as well, and you're doing other different types of things, which is also really helpful in informing you overall about sacred music and other things.
Mhm.
Of course, in sacred music is so foundational, and particularly in Western civilization,
Right.
is no small understatement there.
Yeah,
Uh, but it brings a lot of joy to see someone following their passion, and also that the opportunity comes your way. The
yeah.
serendipitous connection in a place that you wasn't really speaking to, you wasn't really working out,
Mhm.
and that led to be a
Right.
place where you can serve God in a way that
Yeah.
is
God
good for you.
answers prayers and sometimes in roundabout ways, but He
Mhm.
always answers them. And I'm just glad to try to fill the role that He's laid out for me, and want to keep doing that.
Amen. Yeah. Sometimes you get put in a place that you didn't want to be, and that leads you to a place where God wants you to be.
Exactly.
And you've done that, and you'll continue to do that. And we look forward to you continuing to do that.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for you talking about this. This is a really great resource. I'm glad we could shine the light on it. And
Thank
I'll
you.
keep praying
Yeah.
for not only your every success, but in the success in serving the church.
Thank
Uh,
you. You
Truly
too.
appreciate it. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.